Good morning. It's Don, the old radio guy, coming to you. Let's try that again. Oh boy. Good morning. It's Don, the old radio guy here. I'm about to do another video, and I haven't done one in quite a while for various reasons, not the least of which has been summer where outdoor activities took precedence over electronics bench stuff. Normally I do videos on old radio, repair, certain techniques, various other things I want to share. However, I have never, to my memory, made a video of a speaker system building, and while big pause. While I don't build speaker systems often, I have a lot, but I also have a lot of drivers, and although I don't need another system in my life, I've probably got a half a dozen different home-built ones, homebrew units. I do have enough high-quality components to build at least one more system, and I thought, well, I'd share that with everybody, and so I will. I will reset the camera and I'll show you the drivers and other parts that I'm going to use in my system, and then I'll show you various steps on it. The unfortunate thing is when it's completed, and however good or bad it may sound, demonstrating it for YouTube audiences is kind of a moot, because the translation of high-quality audio into the camera and then uploaded and then on YouTube and being watched on the average computer speaker system, just not going to give you much indication of how good the unit may sound. Now, I have great hopes for the sound quality of this because the drivers are really above average. Some of them are very high quality. Alright, so let's get going. Okay, well, before we actually get started on the construction, building, whatever, I thought I'd show you some of the drivers I'm going to use. Now, I have 4 tweeters here. I believe they were 1-inch diameter mylar, polypropylene, whatever, cones on them. I've used them before. Let's see if I can get a close-up of them, and they give pretty good response. To my old ears, the high-end listening capabilities is dropping off significantly, so I usually require quite a boost to the treble end. To that end, I will be putting 2 of these per speaker system in. Then we move over to these fellas here. Now, I've always been very fond of soft dome mid-ranges and actually soft dome tweeters as well. Finding reasonable priced soft dome mid-ranges is quite a task. They're not commonly available at a price that I want to pay. However, these fellas I've had for quite a while, and let's zoom in a little bit on one of them. And they qualify as soft dome mid-ranges. These were originally acquired from the old Radio Shack, and I never liked them. They were strident and harsh, and I just put them aside and never really used them. However, when testing them out again for this project, I found that if I inserted a significant resistance in the line from the mid-range output of the crossovers, they became a lot sweeter. They weren't so forward and strident. They sort of faded back to be an more even response. So I'm hoping that with the appropriate resistance added, that it will work. Next is my Philips DeForest crossover networks. These things came from the early 70s. They have been in and out of many different speaker systems over the years, and I've always liked their response. They were designed basically for the Philips DeForest speaker systems, or speaker drivers, I should say. And they work quite well, but here we are. They've been sitting for a while and not used. Now, the original crossover capacitors were all bipolar electrolytics, and since they are 50 years, 60 years old, I thought it was time to replace them. So I picked up these Mylar capacitors from a local supplier in southern Ontario, and I put them in, and then as a safeguard against any spurious rattling and maybe unsoldering, as you can see, I have put an amount of silicone around the edges of them. So I've tested them and everything works okay. Now comes the big babies. Nope, let's get back into where we are. These are Philips DeForest 12-inch speakers, woofers I should say, and again, I've used them. They come out of the early to mid 70s. They cost me a fair bit at the time, and I have put them in and out of various speaker systems. But actually, in trying to get the sound I wanted, I was never satisfied with anything at whatever cost I built. And so therefore, I fell in love with the British speaker systems that I bought in about 75 or 76, Celestion Ditton 66s, and from then on I loved or liked or tolerated no other speaker systems. However, I have sold those, they're long gone, and so now we have two 12-inch woofers with they're not rubber surrounds. Those woofers being 50 years old, the surrounds are still in great shape. They have massive magnets on the back. I won't show them now. So we've got two woofers, two modified and repaired, restored, improved crossovers, two mid-ranges that I have great hopes for, and four these little tweeters. And that's what's going to go in the systems. Next, I'll show you the boxes that I've done. I have to sort of walk into a different room for that. Okay, here we are. I'll show you the boxes that I'm going to use, or the enclosures. Alright, I've got this one lying on its back to try and show you, if it's not too glary, what I'm going to do. Alright, these boxes were salvaged from a pair of speaker systems that I acquired a long time ago, and they had a ported system design with nice 12-inch woofers, but not with a soft surround. They were accordion treated fabric of some sort. At any rate, I never liked them. They were honky. I couldn't be bothered. I'm not a big fan of ported systems, so they got shoved aside. So this summer, the woofers fit, the new woofers fit in this 12-inch opening cutout fine, but the port and everything else was not suitable. So what I did was I cut away the old front baffle, and I adhered plywood and a skin of veneer on top. I will not be putting grills on them at all. If you can see this, you'll see that there's two different heights here. Okay, this is a thick piece of particle board and with a skin of veneer on it. So they have been sized and cut and trimmed and fitted for the per channel 2 tweeters, 1 mid-range, 1 woofer. What I did was, I don't know whether we can see in there too well, but I cut a substantial brace to go across front to back, side to side, out of a 3/4 inch piece of plywood, and glued that securely in place. This part of the front baffle is adhered to that. There's also a baffle, not a baffle, I'm sorry. There's a brace from front to back, if you can see that, in between the tweeters and the mid-ranges. That might show you a bit better image there. So between the relative substantial plywood case that has a very nice veneer that has survived all these years not too badly, I'm great hopes when it's well stuffed and well sealed that it will produce the kind of bass and the sweet mid-range and tweeter sounds that I'm looking for. At any rate, next step will be the assembly of the back terminal, the crossover network, and then the drivers will be put in, the woofer being last, and before the woofer goes in, I will stuff this to the gills with I have some foam stuffing that will go in the top end here, but I will use fiberglass in there. As I have checked various sites on the YouTube channel, it's sort of inconclusive from what I can tell of what kind of stuffing or acoustical baffling works the best. So it's what I have, it's cheap, and this is what I'm going to use on here, and hopefully it'll sound just fine. See you in a bit. Okay, we are back. I thought I would reverse engineer, if that's the right term, the crossover network, and I think I've got it right. I had to have a couple of goes at it. A couple of goes? Is that right? Okay, it is a three-way, and it has 4 coils and 4 capacitors, right. Okay, I'll just scoot over and show you one of them. Okay, there we are. 4 coils, 4 capacitors. And we'll go back to this. As you can see, that's pretty standard for the woofer. They've managed to do this through the negative leg input, which always sort of baffles me. I just oriented that way in my training, I guess. At any rate, it comes through a coil which restricts or removes a lot of the high frequencies, and then what still gets through there is bypassed through the 12 microfarad capacitor. I forget exactly what style of or design these things follow, but that's just the basic minimum requirement. You could have just a coil, but this takes it up one level, which gives a bit of a sharper slope to the response. Then you get up to the mid-range, which again, it's straight through to the plus, except I have added this resistor, which is a 5.6 ohm resistor, and I'll get through to what else I've done in order to make this mid-range a little less forward or a little less strident. At any rate, it passes through a capacitor which removes a lot of the bass signal, and then there is a coil across from that capacitor to plus, which also helps to bypass some of the low frequencies, and then another coil across that which helps to give the mids a signal. The idea with mid-range is to remove the bass and remove the treble, and between that and that network, that's exactly what it does. Again, plus goes directly to tweeter, and through that capacitor, which removes the bass and the mid-range, and then it's further, oh, I'm sorry, I'm not paying attention to where my camera is, then that bypasses, gives a network consideration, I guess, I don't know. At any rate, over here it says Philips three-way crossover, and it's a 1970s variety, And these are the capacitors that I have replaced. I will be enlarging the holes that mount it and putting grommets in. I'm not sure whether there'd be any resonances or vibrations from that, but I'm going to do it anyhow. I've got the grommets and I can easily open that up. The other thing I need to show you is, we'll just scoot right over to the box again and back it up a bit so you can see I'm peeking through the woofer opening. And I've already taken the liberty of mounting the input connections from the back, which are, well, here we go. Excuse me while I reach around. Which are these things, and I'm not sure where I bought them. It could have been from my favorite speaker store, Q Components, but at any rate, that's what it looks like from the front. So that's in there, ready to be hooked up to the crossover. And then what I had mentioned before about the mid-range being very strident and very forward and very harsh on my ears, I've put that fixed resistor in 5.6 ohms on the crossover network, which will feed out in series. And I've also put this L pad in here. Let's zoom in on that a bit. So that'll take, it's like a volume control, but it's wire wound, and there are two elements in there. And the design is to try and give a balanced resistance or impedance to the crossover or the amplifier, while attenuating the signal through the other resistance element to the mid-range in this case. A lot of systems use it to attenuate the tweeter, but in my case the tweeters are fairly well balanced, and the mid-range is the one that needs attenuation. So we will see how that goes on in there. Okay, I think I'm ready to start mounting the crossover. I have to do a few things with that first, and then I guess I'll come back and show you what I've done with that. So see you in a little bit. Okay, I'm back. I have gone ahead and soldered the, let me see if I can move that up a bit, thank you. Soldered the connections on, that's the mid-range. Okay. And the two tweeters, which are going to be mounted in parallel. I know that may screw up the parameters of the crossover, but it's the way I'm going to try it. To my mind, it will increase the amount of power that's going to the tweeters, and with my old ears, the high end needs all the help it can get. Now what I've done is placed the mid-range and tweeters in their proper spot, and oops, thin, that's upside down. Thank you. There we go. I've already marked them, but what I like to do, which is probably a good thing, if you're not going to have grills, it would be a very smart move to make sure that the drivers, especially when they have square edges like the mid-range and the tweeters do, that they line up properly, so they're perpendicular and centered within their hole. And I've done that for the two tweeters and for the mid-range and marked it, and now I can find an appropriate drill bit that matches the screws I'm going to use, and I will drill the, of course I don't have the exact drill bit, I'm missing one drill bit from this, so I'll have to go one drill bit a little too small. There's the screws that I'll be using in the tweeters. So I'll go ahead and drill those carefully. we're doing when you have the drivers already hooked up. So you have to be careful. One of the problems that I always get when I'm doing the soldering and having stored the drivers close by, that you'll find you take a look at the magnets and you could find screws and brackets and bits of iron filing all over the place. So got to be careful with that. Not that it will hurt anything. If it gets into the voice coil, that's a problem, but with today's drivers, they're well protected. All right, so I'll put the screws in. 2 per. I'll be putting all 4 screws in. Unfortunately, these are chrome plated or plated with something or other, and they're very shiny, and I don't like that. So when they're all in, I shall, and I've just remembered that I have forgotten to do something. Oh dear. Okay, once I find the adhesive, what I like to do is put some silicone around the edges. I know if I have to take them out afterwards, that presents a bit of a problem. But nevertheless, when you're dealing with a sealed system like this, you really need to make sure that you have there a good seal. And with some woofers you can get gaskets that go with them, but with most tweeters mid-ranges, they don't come with such a thing. So it's just a matter of putting the screws in and tightening them down as evenly as you can. Good and secure, but don't stress things so that it warps the frame and causes problems. All right, I'll go back to that first one later. Oh. And do that off camera. And that's really all there is to it. Now there's a little bit of spread from the adhesive. If you try and take it off now, you'll make a mess. So my tendency is to let it cure and then carefully put a utility blade in it. Now for the mid-range, that's where it goes there. Oh, I'm going to forget it again. All right, we shall try. Another trick to this is not to get it all over yourself and not to get it all over the drivers. With me, that's always a problem, that I don't often cure. Okay, now I have to drill holes in that, but I'll be using bigger screws, so I will use a larger bit. I know this is a little on the boring side. Okay. Now this is something I should have done before I put it in. Keep detritus from going in, pardon me, going into the, so I just blew everything into my woofers. Oh, I just realized these specialty screws that I have, they're really made for the woofers. They are Phillips, not Robertson. I hope everybody has a cup of coffee or a beer or something, because this is really exciting work. Oh dear, things are not even. I guess I didn't mark things too well. These are substantial bolts. There's something else, I'm not sure where they are, but I need to show you, in that when I put the tweeters in and drilled the holes, you saw how close it was to the edge of the hole, and that can become a problem. I'll finish those later. See if I can find brackets. I found them. How about that? So again, from my favorite speaker suppliers, where are we? I found these, which are brackets that go on the edge of your woofer. So it clips onto the rim of the woofer there, if I can show that. And that gives you another inch or so back from the edge of your material in order to put the screws in, which makes a lot more safe. Safe isn't the word. It's more secure. That's the word. An S word. I forgot the safe and the secure parts of my alphabet. At any rate, they will go there. So there'll be 4 screws in, the big ones, which are these. They're specially made. At least they're black coated, and they fit better in there. Okay, so I shall do this off camera, I guess, and get that all done, and then I'll come back and show me stuff in the old boxes as tight as I can. I'm going to try that. Okay, see you in a bit. Okay, I'm back. The tweeters, mid-ranges, have all had the silicone seal put on it, and they're all screwed down into place relatively tight. Now comes the fun part. Now I've got this, which actually is just upholstery chair padding, and from people online who have done much more. Oh dear, that's got to go around that. Always problems, because I've got my brace in there. That this stuff is not particularly good acoustical material to go in there. Let's see. Maybe I'll cut. I have this, I don't know, this probably came out of these speakers. I don't know where it came from. It's just stuff. So I shall cut it in half so I can use part of it. There. In the other box. I'll fold that. No, I won't fold it over. I'll just sort of stuff it in as best I can. Oh dear. Alright. Now I have the woofer lead out, and everything else is soldered in. The crossover has been mounted on grommets, so it's tight, but only the rubber is between the screw, the PC board, and the cabinet. Okay, and I have these neat little labels. This one says woof, so I know what goes where. So now I have to get wherever it is. Oh dear, where did I leave it? I'll be back. Okay, I left this stuff out in the back hall. surprised I couldn't find it. I have no idea which way I should be stuffing this, so I'll just stuff it. Alright, I have taken apart commercially made speaker systems that was so full of this stuffing that you could not, oh no, it's not that you could not, I feared that the material would be rubbing against the woofer, the back of the woofer cone. I was shocked. It was really rammed right in there. And they were a commercially built system. So I'm not quite sure I want to do that. This is my, can you see that? Phillips DeForest 12-inch. And I have to warm up my iron in order to solder this in place. So another interminable wait. Now the other, oh, can I have a rant? I'd like to have a rant. I watch a lot of YouTube videos, and I'm surprised and shocked to see the number of people, mostly guys, I think all guys, who swear for no particular reason, curse is another word, while they're making their videos. And I'm not being prudish, but it's not really necessary. And I try not to do this. If I do, I edit it out. So I have a challenge. Any of you that are watching, if you ever see one of my videos where I do emit an expletive, then call me out on it, and I shall pay $1 in a dollar bucket, and when I get enough, then I can donate it to charity. I don't think I do. I try to say things like heck and gosh darn it, which sounds awful. And I do swear, but not while I'm in mixed company or when I'm trying to make videos that almost anybody could watch. So, at any rate, rant is over. I have the iron all warmed up. I need to take off the old wiring, not let anything fall in to the cone area. It's always fun when the gall darn jacket melts off. There, off. Alright, now, did I strip the wires and pin them? Yes, I did. Now I need my glasses on in order to see the ribbing, because I'm using various kinds of lamp cord that I have around. So I have ribbing. It's almost always marked. I don't know whether you can see that, but there's ribbing on this one, and that denotes the plus or the hot or the whatever you like. So in she goes. Give it a twist so it's mechanically connected as well as solderable. Come on, in you go. There. I can't tell you how many different systems these speakers have been in and out of. I think I mentioned that earlier on. And I think they're great, but I also found that they were, in whatever was wrong with the system design, the crossover, the drivers I was using, never liked the sound. And then a friend of mine, way back in 1975, bought a set of Celestion Ditton 66 studio monitors, which are very tall and very narrow, and they have a passive radiator or drone cone on them. And it was amazing. He and I have been into not necessarily liturgical music, but organ music. And when you get the deep, the large, the tall pipes sounding, most speaker systems can't handle that. And those Ditton 66s just rattled the room and your eardrums. Okay, where was I? Looking for my adhesive. Should I drill holes for them first? I have an excess of wire. It's also nice to mount these. There's, I don't know whether they should be on the top or the bottom, but there's the wiring that goes into the voice coil. And all I can do with this is try, and I can't use a square. So what do we want? 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Either way you look at it. So I guess I can't do that way. Let's do that, because I have to get these in. Oh, and they are a little too low. Let's put them right over them. I don't know what I can do about that. They're a bit tight. There. All right. Try and put this in the middle, if I can. Pardon my head if it's getting in the shot. Isn't this exciting? It is for me. I don't know whether it is for anybody else. All right. I'll drill the holes. And this is one thing I learned the hard way. Always protect your cone when you're doing anything. I've actually more than once put a screwdriver right through the cone when it slipped. And now with the cost of the drivers, the woofers that I'm buying, that would be, ooh, smells like nice fresh wood. Alright, so I have my Phillips screwdriver. Oh, I'm going to do it again. See, that's what comes from being an old guy. You forget lots of things. Alright, I shall run a bead right around. And actually, I'm wondering if where I'm placing it is too far in to actually provide a seal. I don't know. There's one way to find out. Let's put the fella in and try not to get it all over yourself, which I probably have. Oh yeah, it's squeezing through, so I think I got it. Now I can put the screws in. And then it's ready to go. I don't know whether anybody's going to get any substantial pleasure from listening to it picked up by my camcorder's microphone. But I will. I'll either have a very sad face. I think I need some washers on these screws. They're not the brackets have a big slot in them, and the screws almost pull through. Alright, where's the last one? There it is. You bored yet? No? Okay. You're waiting to see if I'll put the screwdriver through the cone, right? I do that, I terminate this video. I guess okay. Now, I guess I can stand it up and we can hook it up. You want to hear it go? Or should I leave everybody in the lurch? Oh, they are heavy too. Oh, believe me. I don't know whether that picks that up or not. I only have a small amplifier in here. Where are we? That's what we want. So I won't be able to really make it wail. I'll end up having to take this into the living room and hook it up to my main amp. But this will give me an idea. What do you think I'm going to say if it doesn't work at all? Ha ha ha. After I've put the woofer in. These things are not meant for big fingers. Okay. Now, again, I can't play things for long. Okay. Ooh, I like it.
Out of the tree of life, I
don't know how long I can run this. I think I'll stop it there. Well, it works. The bass sounds good. The bench is not the best place to have it, but there it is. I have everybody in the way I want it. I think that might need to be adjusted. I will have no dust covers, grill cloths, whatever you want to call them on this. That's one of the reasons why. Can I adjust that up a bit? Yes, thank you. That's one of the reasons why I used some nice figured plywood skinning on the particle board that I put in there. It makes it a little more pleasing. I was going to paint this black to sort of blend in with that, but when I saw the way it looked after I assembled it, I changed my mind. Now the upper part here is sort of a mixed bag. This is the edge of the particle board, which is a good solid choice for making speaker cabinets because it's dense. But it's rough, and I made the mistake, even though I profiled it and sanded it, and then I decided to paint it with a very big brand name of paint, oil-based, which I'm not crazy about using anymore. And after 3 days it still hadn't dried. So I just said, well, the heck with this, and I wiped it off with Varsol. And when I did, I sort of liked the way it looked. If I grow tired of that and think it's not so good, I'll tape off this and very carefully go paint that out in flat black, which will mask the roughness of it. But meanwhile, it's done. I don't know what I'm going to do with them, because I have a good set that I made last year, again with Philips, a new Philips woofer, and very good Philips DeForest soft dome mid-range, and a very good Philips DeForest tweeter, soft dome tweeter, that I've had again since the 70s, somewhere in the 70s. So where this will end up, I don't know. Maybe it'd be a plant stand. Anyhow, thank you very much for watching. See you later.